Okay. Hi, if everyone could unmute your video, we'd like to see you. It's looking a little better. We'll get going in a few minutes. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Good morning, or I'm sorry, good afternoon. Welcome to the meeting of November 15th. So we'll start today, call to order. This meeting of the Elections Commission is called to order. It's 1:03 on November 15th, 2023. The meeting is being conducted by video conference and telephone and is being recorded. The recording and written summary will serve as the official minutes of the meeting. All participants, except for the commission, will be muted until we take public testimony. We will start today's meeting with swearing in of new Elections Commission members. I call on Reese Nakamura, Attorney General, to administer the oaths.
And good afternoon. I'd like to administer the oath to Commissioner Andrian. Commissioner, if you could repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Hawaii,
and the Constitution of the State of Hawaii,
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
as an Elections Commissioner to the best of my ability.
as an Elections Commissioner to the best of my ability.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I'd also like to administer the oath to Commissioner Papalimu.
Yes,
Commissioner, please repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Hawaii,
and the Constitution of the State of Hawaii,
and that I will faithfully discharge my duties
and I will faithfully discharge my duties
as an Elections Commissioner to the best of my ability.
as an Elections Commissioner to the best of my abilities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
Excuse me, Scotty,
Yes,
can you hear me?
Cynthia.
Can Dylan and Kahiolani tell us what islands they're representing?
Sure, this is that okay, Chair?
Sure.
This is Commissioner Andrian. I previously was I was with you folks a couple meetings representing Big Island. After the Maui wildfires, my family made the decision to move back home and be a part of the recovery efforts here. So I'm now representing Maui Island.
Aloha, my name is Kahiolani Papalimu, and I am currently representing the island of Hawaii, Mokuokeawe.
We welcome you.
Thank you.
I'm from Papako.
Oh, wonderful. Headed there tomorrow.
Okay. So, moving on, we have a roll call and the termination of a quorum, which I will turn over.
Chair Anderson, Commissioner Andrian,
Present.
Commissioner Aquino, Commissioner Aquino, Commissioner Curtis,
Present.
Commissioner Kikuchi,
Present.
Commissioner Kuwata,
Present.
Commissioner McAdam,
Present.
Commissioner Papalimu,
Present.
Commissioner Takenaka.
Present.
Chair, you have quorum.
Chair, this is Commissioner Andrian. Before we move forward with anything, I wanted to make a quick motion to amend the agenda. And our OE Secretary Jamie actually helped me out with this. She pointed out in 2016, Chair, you did actually make a public announcement regarding the salary decision for the chief election officer made by this commission, as well as the voting record related to that decision by each member. I tried to do this last time, but I think there was some confusion around it. So I'd like to make a motion to insert before public testimony an announcement of the salary decision for the chief election officer and voting record by members related to that decision.
Second.
Can a published agenda be amended without notice?
It can by the board if it has not already been adopted, which there has not been a motion to adopt the agenda.
Does the Sunshine Law allow agendas to be changed without notice?
I know we have our, is he here? Reese is here, right?
Yeah, I'm talking to him. Pardon me? Needs a 2/3 vote.
Good afternoon. Well, we'll have to have the motion and a 2/3 vote to attract the, to adjust the agenda. And it would have to be a significant item as well.
Thank you so much. I moved and I know Commissioner Papalimu seconded.
The chair prevented me from changing an agenda because it couldn't be changed without notice according to the Sunshine Law. Apparently, Mr. Nakamura disagrees.
So can we take the 2/3 vote, Chair?
Can we determine on the propriety of changing an agenda without notice according to the Sunshine Law?
I'm waiting for a opinion by the AG.
Thank you.
Since it's been seconded, I'll just add on to the discussion of that. You know, I just felt like this is a very small way to be transparent with our constituents and those that are joining us. And I know that's been a major goal for all of us here on the commission, is to just be transparent. So that's the only reason why I would try to insert something like this in our agenda.
Can you repeat the motion?
Sure. So the motion on the table is to insert before public testimony an announcement of the salary decision for the chief election officer and the voting record by members related to that decision. And this has been something that we've done as a commission prior. On the December 2nd, 2016 meeting, Chair Anderson made a public announcement of the salary decision for the chief election officer to the public.
All right.
Good afternoon. The relevant sunshine law section is HRS 92-7 D as in Delta. No board shall change the agenda less than 6 calendar days prior to the meeting by adding items thereto without a 2/3 recorded vote of all members to which the board is entitled. So, which provided that no items shall be added to the agenda if it is of reasonably major importance and action thereon by the board and will affect a significant number of persons. Items of reasonably major importance not decided at a scheduled meeting shall be considered only at a meeting continued to a reasonable day and time.
Thank you.
Which means,
well, I guess there's a motion on the table right
So
now.
Commissioner Curtis, your last meeting, you should have been able to have this same privilege, but if we can continue with the vote, I've made the motion and Commissioner Papalingo has seconded it.
Unless you want to have some discussion.
And if there's any discussion, I'm happy to continue discussing the motion. Again, just a very small way, I think our commission can show transparency to the public in sharing something we've shared before in past meetings.
I agree with the motion. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was just raising my hand. I seconded it just because it's purely an announcement. And I think commissions should announce their major decisions to the public. And the best time to do it is at your next formal meeting that's open to the public. So I think it's a perfect time.
Thank you.
so Reese,
Well, I mean, I believe there's a motion on it.
there is a motion. I'm just not sure exactly where all the information is.
Is there any other discussion? Any other commissioners?
No further discussion from me. I know our OE secretary has minutes of our last meeting that show exactly what the salary decision was and the voting record by each member. So maybe one of our OE secretaries could make the announcement if Chair Anderson doesn't have the information in front of him. But it sounds like we're in agreement of just making a transparent announcement to the public. I don't hear any opposition.
Actually, I thought I made that announcement. Go ahead.
It's
No,
simple.
excuse me, there's a motion and second on the floor.
Aren't we having
Are we going to
discussion?
vote on it?
Aren't we having discussion?
Yeah,
Aren't we still in discussion?
yes.
Okay, I'm a little confused here. So we went into executive session and approved the salary increase, correct?
That was done in executive session, so
Right? We did it in executive session. And what you're saying is that when we came out of executive session, we did not, all we said was that the vote was approved to give the salary increase.
no, we didn't let the public know anything. We didn't tell them if it was approved or disapproved. We just adjourned the meeting. And that's on the website. You can look on YouTube and look at our meeting. That was something I was trying to do, but I think there was confusion around it. So, hey, blank slate, I'm here today just to say we should have made a public announcement and let's get it done today. Let's be transparent with everyone.
I don't have a real problem with that. I don't have any of the information in front of me to make the announcement. We made an announcement at some point in time. It was after. But I don't know, wherever that information is, we'll dig for it, but I don't have it in front of me.
I have the information.
I'm
in
not
front of me.
disagreeing with doing it. I'm not disagreeing with doing it. I just don't have the information.
Okay, I'll
So
put the
Dylan, what
information in the
meeting
chat
was
for you
it?
if you'd like.
Dylan, what meeting was it?
Our past meeting back in April,
What? No. the-
April 17th,
No, the meeting where the vote happened.
April
Yeah.
17th.
No. You wanted to know the people who voted on the salary for the CEO, correct?
Yes, I'm so sorry, Commissioner. It's so hard to hear you, but
Yeah.
the vote
Pardon me,
on
bro.
the vote on the salary decision for the chief election officer was taken on April 17th, which was, I believe, I think it was our last meeting.
Okay. So we're not talking 2016. I'm sorry, I must have misheard you.
Sorry, no, I was giving precedence because I wanted to do this. I wanted to make a public announcement on the salary decision, but was told that we couldn't do that. It's never been done, and it's just a taboo thing. But with our OE secretary's help, she showed me minutes from 2016 and pointed out that Chair Anderson did make a public announcement. I think it is pretty common. And so again, I just wanted to give our commission one more chance to make a simple public announcement on the salary decision and the voting record by each member. And Chair, I have the information right in front of me, so I'm just going to chat it to you real quick. This comes from our meeting notes, minutes. And I'll just send that to Scotty so that no one else sees it. And actually, I'll give it to all of our members. Claire McAdam, Michael Curtis, Stafford. Jeff.
Chair, did you indicate that typically the salary is made public at some point in time?
So I just sent that to all of our commissioners. And if we can take this to a vote and agree on it, we can make a really quick announcement to the public. That's all I was trying to take care of for us today.
Okay, so Dylan, I'm sorry, can you hear me? Is it still bad? I don't know what's wrong.
I don't know what's wrong with your microphone, Commissioner. Talking
Yeah,
about it.
it's really hard to hear you, Cynthia.
Yeah, I'm
That
sorry.
sounds like it's about time for in-person meetings.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So Chair, now that the information is in front of all of us, can we put my motion to a vote, please?
It's not in front of me. I wish it was.
Dylan,
Check-
this
check
is
your
Stafford.
chat.
I didn't
I
receive it.
chatted.
I didn't receive it either.
Check
I
your
just-
chat.
I
Check
just
the
chatted
chat.
it to everyone.
I don't have,
And I sent it to the
Oh.
secretary too. So the secretary, it's in her chat, secretary, if you want to
Okay, all right.
be responsible for the announcement.
Look at it.
I mean, if we all agree on the motion, I think it'd be a shame to not do it just because we don't have the information. We should have this information ready, right? And that's why, again, I've chatted it to everyone. I've also chatted it to the commission secretary. So the
Let me
information
just
is ready.
clarify though, let me clarify, I mean, I think the amount of the salary, that may be public information, but the way commissioners voted in executive session and the thought process, that's what's confidential. So if the salary can be, announced, if that's the motion, but I'm not sure if that's the way the motion is worded. If you can repeat the motion again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, so council, you're advising that voting record by the members is not permissible, right, to share?
Right.
Okay, so I'll repeat my motion and related to that. So I move to insert before public testimony an announcement of the salary decision for the chief election officer.
Decision meaning the amount?
Yes.
Okay, just can have discussion or discussion.
And I think we, good
Is there a
discussion.
second?
Second,
Call for the question.
Moved and seconded.
now the question's on the floor.
What's the question?
The question is.
The question is the amount.
No, the question is to vote, to discontinue discussion and go to vote on the motion.
So all in favor or all against? That's the next.
Wait. Scotty's the chair, please.
That's okay. That's okay. It's only a short time to go. Fine. I want to make sure we do this right. I don't want to do it wrong. So the motion, your motion,
The question to end discussion is on the floor now.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. So now we can move on and do the next part. Those, do we have the right number? That's the one thing that I'm concerned about, is making sure we have the right number.
The motion is to disclose the number, whatever it is.
Right. And I don't know what that number is.
So when you find out, you can disclose if the motion passes.
Well, I'm hoping that.
We have to
just
pass the
out of
motion
way right now.
first.
Hang on. Oh. Do what? Oh, we don't know what the total is. That just shows the increase. Oh, okay. Okay. I've got the increase and I've got the total, all right? That good for everybody? The increase was $12,000. The no total is 119,000.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to vote on the motion?
Well, the motion is, yeah, I think we are. But it'd be nice if you knew what the numbers were. That was,
Just said it.
all right. Call the question. Dylan? Say it.
Aye. Oh, you want me to repeat the motion?
Yes, I do.
I move to insert before public testimony an announcement of the salary amount and decision for the chief election officer.
Okay. Is there a second? Yes, there is. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No. Roll call.
Okay. Go ahead.
See what you started?
Chair Anderson,
No.
Commissioner Andrion,
Aye.
Commissioner Curtis,
Aye.
Commissioner Kikuchi,
No.
Commissioner Kawada,
No.
Commissioner McAdam,
Aye.
Commissioner Papalimu. Commissioner Papalimu, sorry, you're,
Yes.
Commissioner Takenaka.
No,
Chair, you have a tie.
You need 2/3, motion dies.
But Chair also already made the announcement, so we can move on.
Well, the chair was in favor. He said he was in favor of that.
Chair did say he was in favor.
I wonder if it'll be on the written minutes.
Okay. So, anything else? We're moving on to public testimony. I'm sorry, status of operations report for the chief election officer.
In front of me, you have in front of you the November 13th status of operations report. I'd like to highlight that coming out of the 2023 legislative session, there were various amounts of legislation that we have to implement for the election. The biggest one being the digital voter guide. So we're going to be required to compile a digital voter guide containing candidate profiles, ballot questions, as well as voting information. This will be housed on our website for voters to access, and it will be available 45 days prior to each election to coincide when the UOCAV or the federal overseas ballots go out. Additionally, voters will receive notification of the digital voter guide on their ballot, and printed copies will be available for viewing at public state libraries. Other things we're working on: political party petitions. Interested groups can form a political party by collecting 862 signatures, which is 1/10 of 1% of the registered voters at the 2022 general election. The deadline to file the petition is February 22nd. Currently, we have 4 qualified parties to date. That's the Democratic Party, the Libertarian Party, the Republican Party, and we have a new party called No Labels. Finally, I'd like to note that in response to the Maui fires, earlier this month, we sent out a voter registration form to all voters in House District 14, the voter registration form allows them to update their mailing address because ballots are not forwardable through the mail. So if they update their mailing address, they will receive their ballot in the mail and be eligible to continue to vote. We do understand that the situation is fluid, and we will continue to monitor the situation and do all we can to help those affected Lahaina voters. And that's all I have, and I'll be available for any questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Commissioner Papalimu from the Big Island. I just want to clarify what I heard you say. You said that you had reached out to District 14 and notified them that they would need to update their mailing addresses?
Correct.
In order for them to remain eligible to vote?
No. So in order for them to still continue to vote and receive their ballot, they would need to update their mailing address. So if they did move and their mailing address has changed, the ballot will not get to them because it's non-forwardable. So we would need them to update their mailing address so that the ballot can still get to them.
Or they could come into a walk-in service center, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that because I was hearing that if they didn't update and they didn't get a ballot in the mail, they couldn't vote. But we do still have service centers available for the upcoming 2024 election.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
But I do want to add that if their ballot does bounce back because they did not update their mailing address, that starts a process where it triggers a removal process that we don't want to see them in that. We just want them to update their address so that they don't have to go through that.
Chair, I had a follow-up question.
I'm sorry, I was still asking.
Okay.
So you're saying that if the ballot is returned to the office, you folks are automatically taking them off the voter rolls?
No, not automatically taking it. It starts a process where we flag them, and they have up to 2 general election cycles to update their registration, but they will not be receiving a ballot.
Okay. they will not be receiving a ballot for the next election cycle.
Correct.
Oh,
The judge's job is to make sure that.
I'm
thank
sorry.
you for answering.
Any more questions for Scott?
Oh, Scott, I just had a quick question. And I know you had mentioned that you'll be paying particular attention as it gets closer to the election. But as was previously discussed, for the people who may have been forced to relocate close to the election, if they choose to show up and vote in person, and like they haven't been able to update either their appropriate IDs, like driver's license or whatever, is there an accommodation to account for that when those people actually show up at the polls and need to prove that they are who they say they are?
Yes, so if you do show up in person to vote at the polls and you do not have ID, the clerk or the voter service center official will ask you for confirming identity to identify that you are who you say you are. And once they do that, then they will allow you to vote. So a picture ID is not required. It just speeds up the process of processing.
Right.
It's criminal benefit. What is he hoping?
Thank you.
Okay, any more? Okay. Moving on. Public testimony. We are gonna call on, I don't know how many testifiers we have today, but you've got the, how many are there? 4. All right. We would like, if possible, that you keep your questions as short as possible. We have a lot to do today, but we want to take care of your concerns too. So if you could get to the point quickly, that would be very helpful. So as soon as one testifier is complete, we will call on the next one. So go ahead.
If you would like to testify, please click raise hand under reactions on Zoom. If you are joining us by phone, press *9. When recognized, please unmute your microphone before speaking. You may also turn on your video at this time. For the record, please state your first and last name and the items you'll be testifying on.
I didn't hear, did you call Jamie Detweiler?
To ensure that you have sufficient time to hear all testimony, each testifier will have 3 minutes to testify. Once your time has expired, you'll be asked to conclude your remarks. The first testifier is Jamie Detweiler, followed by Ralph Cushney.
Aloha, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I appreciate each and every one of you. Your jobs are difficult. There's no doubt about that. And, you know, the public, we rely on you to promote transparency as articulated by Commissioner Andrian earlier, and also integrity. So I'd like to speak to the subject of agenda item number 6, discussion, review, and implementation method of evaluation for the Chief Election Officer and action if appropriate. My testimony back in April 2023 was similar to that of today's testimony, and I stand on today's testimony. I will highlight a number of areas that are still a concern for me. So some of the things that I've noticed, and I come from a background in federal service. I have over 30 years of healthcare administration and social services. I am still a licensed social worker. I'm also a former supervisor. So point number 1, failure to perform audits in accordance with HRS 16-42. And all of you are familiar with that. Number 2, failure to respond to my written request to comply with HRS 16-42. This was received by certified mail on November 14th, 2022. And to this day, I have not received a response, even a no response. For example, no, I'm sorry, we can't respond to your request. I have received no response. Failure to respond to my written request for a hand count of House District 37, for which I was a candidate last year. And I laid out the details in item number 3 in those 4 bullet points. One of the things I want to highlight in those 4 bullet points was a lack of chain of custody. I sat and observed the drop box in Mililani Mauka during last year's election and did not see any handoff or chain of custody. The 2 volunteers who manned the box and locked the box at the prescribed time, they were not there. They were only there for 10 more minutes. And then there was a whole hour and a half before it got picked up. No counts were done. And so, you know, there are questions about the chain of custody. Additionally, on point number 4, I testified before the House Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs on HB 132 in February of 2023. Some of these points were brought up during that hearing, and Chair Tarnas called Mr. Nago back to the podium to ask a follow-up question, which related to what is the practice of the Office of Elections in responding to correspondence from the public? And his response was, well, you know, there could be legal issues. And, you know, it was a very vague answer. And he just gave that excuse for not responding. And I still have not received a response. Point number 5, dirty voter rolls. On November 6, 2020, Mr. Nago stated during a PBS Hawaii interview that mailed to the wrong address or to deceased people. This is really poor statistics for our, you know, that's 1/8 of the registered voters. And for all of these points that I've made, I would recommend an evaluation of Poor. I'm appalled that he got a raise, you know, after, you know, a couple of us testified on lack of responsibility, the lack of transparency and integrity, a raise. You know, that is something that the commission, I hope, will take a look at. And, you know, again, this is, we need accountability, we need transparency, we need accuracy and integrity in our elections. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Next testifier is Ralph Kushney, followed by Scott Shedko.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ralph Kushney. My question that I have is, our testimony is relating to validation of ballots. So my question for Scott Nago, if you could answer this, please. Does the Office of Election require chain of custody of ballots? I'd like an answer, please. Will Mr. Nago answer the question? Should be a simple yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, so I know for, what's that?
For our operation.
Do you require chain of custody from the county when you receive ballots?
But the county's chain of custody is not under our jurisdiction.
Okay,
So we have
do they need
to within?
Are they supposed to have chain of custody?
That's a question for them.
Okay, so you're going to defer that question. So the ballots are under the control. In theory, ballots can be received up to 3 weeks before election day. Okay, so the ballots are there for 3 weeks and there's no chain of custody. On the island of Kauai, there's no chain of custody. So I'm going to read you a question and answer from the Office of Elections website. It's the third from the bottom under voting security. How do you ensure elections officials don't throw away our ballots? And the answer that Office of Election gives at the end of it says, additionally, the number of ballots received and counted are reconciled at the end of each day to ensure there are no discrepancies. So I'm asking, do you folks reconcile the ballots that are received and counted every day?
Yes.
Okay, well, Kauai office does not do that. My second question, is a ballot image an exact copy of a ballot?
Yes.
It's an exact copy.
Yes.
There's no interpretation.
No.
Okay. So could you guys put in your definitions, you use ballot images quite a bit in your defense in lawsuits. There is no legal definition of a ballot image. Could you guys enter that into the record, please? Yes or no?
I don't have a definition for a ballot image right now that I could give you. off the
Okay,
top of my head.
I'm just asking if you guys can enter that into the record as you use the definition of ballot image. So
15
in
seconds.
summary, we have a 3-week election cycle. The ballots are in a big pile. And to answer your question, how do we know that, ensure, this is your question, that elections officials don't throw away ballots? Their answer is, you can't answer that because on Kauai and on Oahu, they don't keep chain of custody documentation. So we don't know if ballots are being added or subtracted from a pile. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next testifier is Scott Shedko, followed by Corrine Solomon.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair and Commissioners. Scott Shedko, and I will be speaking to items 6 and 8 on the agenda. I'd first like to mention voter confidence. I've seen at least 3 or 4 reports and surveys showing that Hawaii is last or close to last of the 50 states in voter confidence in our elections. So this should be a concern for every citizen of Hawaii, and especially for the Election Commission. The commission put out a report a couple weeks ago, I believe October 26, 480 pages. And in that report, there was a reference to the court case, Supreme Court case, SCEC-22-00000703. And this was a case, the complaint was that the election and audit was not followed correctly. Now, it mentions in the 480 pages that this was dropped. I was hoping there would be an acknowledgement of what the judges wrote in the written review, and that was, our review is strictly limited to the allegations of the complaint, which we view in the light most favorable to the plaintiff and deemed to be true. So the judges did say that the complaint was true. There was at least 31 voters who made this complaint. The election was not done correctly, especially the audit. The reason it was dropped, the judges said, was that the complaint fails to allege any specific facts, that the audit procedures could change the outcome of the election. My question is, how can we get to the specific facts without a proper audit? Anyone can tell me. And I'm going to jump to my conclusion here. Number 6, evaluation of the chief election officer should be related to voter confidence and demonstrating why it is warranted. Again, Hawaii ranks last. And number 8, interview for election commission chair should include questions regarding knowledge of possibilities of machine manipulation, a plan to enforce the current election laws, using hand counts of paper ballots at the very least for audits of random samples of precincts, as is the law. Thank you again for this opportunity to testify. Aloha, I yield.
Next testifier is Corinne Solomon, followed by Adriel Lam.
Aloha, my name is Corinne Solomon, and I will be testifying on status of operations. I would like to thank each of you commissioners for volunteering your time to be on the Elections Commission. I know it's a volunteer position and you're taking time from your day. I have 3 questions and I will just go through them without pause as my time is limited. My first question is for Chief Elections Officer Scott Nago. There was a bill presented this session to expand ranked choice voting to all elections in Hawaii, and it did not make the committee deadlines. So I'm asking if you know if that will just roll over to 2024, or is there a plan to represent that bill in the next session? My second question, 3 minutes is not enough time to explain technical concepts. So I had emailed a written testimony Monday around noon, which is 48 hours before the meeting. And I noticed that it didn't make it to the meeting materials packet. So my second question is, what is the hard deadline for submitting written testimony? I had also asked for an email confirmation that the testimony be sent to the commissioners and that they, if I can get a response back that they received it. So my third question is, did the commissioners receive my testimony? So those are my questions. So let me talk a little bit about my written testimony, excuse me. It has a detailed explanation of why ballot images cannot be considered the same or equivalent to paper ballots. And the reason I bring that up is there was a Office of Elections publication called Implementing Elections by Mail. And in that there is a 33-page Appendix A called Review of Statutes Related to Election Audits in Hawaii. And this is a collection of justification about how a ballot image is equivalent to a paper ballot. And there are some more arguments and details about how it's impossible to sort ballots by precinct due to staffing and space issues. So my written testimony includes a very detailed technical paper. It's an analysis from University of Michigan. It's not any conspiracy theory or anything like that. It's done by scientists and computer experts. And they show and explain how a ballot image is made. It's not really what we see on the paper. It's how the machine interprets it and turns it into an image, and how the mark sense information on that can be assigned to the wrong candidate or even deleted. So using paper ballots is a security check to detect if there have been any ballot image manipulations or tabulation errors. And it seems to me like common sense to use paper ballots for the audits. So I can respectfully ask now that each of you can please take the time to read both the Appendix A in the Office of Elections report and then read my testimony, and ask yourselves why the Office of Elections is fighting so hard to use images instead of paper ballots. Thank you for your commitment to the commission, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next testifier is Adriel Lam.
Hello, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity to testify. My name is Adriel Lam, and I'm testifying on item number 4, status of operations report. Appreciate Chief Elections Officer report on legislations and processes. Particularly, I appreciate the voter guide. It's something I did for my county committee in 2020. I'm glad to see the state is taking on that project to provide voter guides for this statewide. But I do take exception to the report of legislation that seems to come out of nowhere, doesn't seem to come through this commission or discussion or here, especially for Act 113, where now a dead voter can vote. Regardless, there's no check on whether someone has passed away before voting day. They can just, if someone receives a ballot, and I guess they know the intent of the dead voter, they can just pass it in. There's going to be a check on whether that person is alive or not on election day. So we don't have election day, we have election year or election season, whatever you want to call it. I do want to bring up something about our voter rolls. Someone had alluded earlier, a lot of us think the voter rolls are compromised. Admittedly, there's already 100,000 that need to be cleaned up. There's probably more in there because, as I testified before, United States Hawaii somehow has been corrected to the actual name of the person that's supposed to be. But we do know that person never registered to vote at that residence. That person does not live there, has moved away before that registration was changed for that date, for that election. And how did that name get corrected back to the original name? And he's still on the voter roll. And he's what's still on the voter rolls as United States Hawaii in 2022 elections. I'll go on to the cast vote record. I believe I sent to the commission and also other legislators my analysis of the cast vote records. We have a bunch of batches. I sorted through all 419,363 records. We have multiple versions of batch numbers 1 through 10 in Honolulu. There's four batches of batch number 10. They're different sizes. They're not the same ballots. And in Maui, we have extra cast vote records, a front side and a back side, and there's no matching front side and back side to these cast vote records. So what is a cast vote record, and is an accurate inventory of our ballots? Do we even know that the computer has recorded accurately what our ballots are, what's coming through the system, the ballots? So I like the commission to look at the cast vote record and match it up with their batch reports and make some sense out of this accounting of our ballots. It is not making sense in the cast vote records, and I hope we can find answers to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lane.
Chair, there are no more testifiers.
Pardon me? That's it? Okay, testifiers are over. So item number 6 on our agenda is discussion, review, and implementation of method evaluation for the chief election officer and action if appropriate. Chief Election Officer Scott Nago's current term ends on January 31st, 2024. This commission will review the evaluation forms and discuss and make changes during open meeting. Once the commission has finalized the evaluation forms, the secretary will distribute the forms via email to the commissioners, the chief election officer, and the county clerks to complete. Upon receiving the completed forms, the secretary will redact all names prior to distribution to the commissioners for review. The reapportionment of the reappointment of the chief election officer will then be discussed at subsequent meeting. We'll now open up for discussion from the commissioners before we move on to items 7 and 8. Thank you.
So we're discussing the method of evaluation.
Yep.
And there were surveys sent out to each of the commissioners for their feedback.
Yes.
So that's the method of evaluation?
Yes. Or a method.
There was some previous discussion about the feedback from the voters and like for instance the audit, the concerns about the audits and the chief election officer response to that deferring to the counties. And if the counties are responsible, well, actually the chief election officer is responsible for the election in the state of Hawaii. He can delegate some of the responsibilities, but they're still his responsibility. The counties perform many of these functions, and he's always deferring to them the complaints regarding their behavior, but he's still the chief elections officer in the state of Hawaii. Isn't he responsible? And isn't this evaluation a measure of his responsibility and response to that responsibility. Method of evaluation. What methods do we use to analyze Scott's performance? Do we have any? Is there any statistical analysis of the behavior of the elections that reflect on Scott Nago's performance? Would that be a reasonable method of evaluation? I think we're responsible not having a defined method of evaluation.
Michael, did you get a form in the mail?
I got the surveys.
Email? Pardon me?
I got the surveys.
Yeah, okay.
What measures of performance are we applying to Scott?
That's for you to decide.
Okay, I don't think we have any.
Well, you know, one thing I would caution all of you on is we got quite a few complaints the last election that went to the Supreme Court. And guess what? Supreme Court backed up the Office of Elections on every single one of them.
It's not that they backed up the performance, it's that the complaint was not substantiated. It doesn't support Scott, it denies the claim. So you're making statements that are not accurate. We have no statistical method of evaluation that's consistently analyzing Scott's performance. What performance are we analyzing? Is the number of complaints?
Michael, what is statistical performance?
It's measurable, timed behavioral data points. That's statistics. It's behavioral data points. Such as the number of complaints. If the number of complaints against Scott Nago increases, then it would indicate degradation of the public confidence in his behavior. That's a measurable response. There are others, but I can't think of them off the top.
So are you saying that the form that we've used before is not adequate?
I'm suggesting that as a commission, we should be responsible for defining behavioral performance measures that every major corporation or...
So do you not think that the form we used before is adequate? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Because there is a question in there about how he responds to the public.
He responds in public by deferring to the counties, saying it's their responsibility, not his. If you'd like to measure that one.
Well,
Are we just having a discussion, Chair?
yeah, this is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Curtis, Commissioner Curtis. I think it actually saves us as a commission if there's more analytical data to look at when it comes to evaluating the chief election officer and removes all of our opinion from it. So if there's things like, you know, cross-referencing voter turnout with voter confidence and looking at that history, you know, has voter turnout increased? That could be directly related to the performance of the chief election officer. What about fiscal responsibility? What is the financial outlook of how much we're spending on electronic voting systems and how that's not improving voter turnout? You know, I think we just have to, as a commission, and I think we've had really great public testimonies that we can look back and help us with what are the data points we should be looking at, you know, maybe the 3 major data points we should be looking at to help us when it comes to evaluating the chief election officer. And I think voter turnout is, I mean, an obvious one that we can look at.
So what are some of the other data points?
Well, I think something that was brought up to me when people were told that I was going to be on the Elections Commission was the inadequate use of volunteer hours. There were so many people who volunteered and so many gatherings for ballot counting that were canceled. And so all of these people had apportioned time to volunteer their efforts for the counting of ballots, the observing of the election process. And all of these things were, so many of them were canceled on all island and on Oahu. So that speaks to the efficiency of the office. If they are calling for volunteers, bringing all these people in, training all of them, and then all of a sudden canceling all of them from doing the job that they spent the money to train all of them at, to buy food for them, to do all these things, that speaks to efficiency of the office. If you don't have preparation and work for volunteers to do, why are you calling for 80 volunteers? And so maybe there are things that volunteers can be doing so they don't get canceled. Efficiency of the office. If you cannot say the counties are responsible, because legally the counties are not responsible. The state elections officer oversees the entire election process for the state of Hawaii. When he doesn't answer a person, especially a person who ran for office, and there is no contact, that speaks to the ethics of the office. When you have voter turnout that is constantly declining, that speaks to the trust of the office. And so I think these people are very clear. And when you say that, well, the Supreme Court decided, and so that speaks to his, Scott Nago's duties and success at his duties, I think you missed the whole mark. The fact that we even had to have a suit that would go all the way to the Supreme Court because of an election process speaks volumes to the ability of him to do the job. If there were no lawsuits, now that's success in the office. And so I believe we do not have a matrix to evaluate one of the most important jobs in our state, because voting is the bedrock of our republic. It is the mainstay of our democracy. And if the gentleman in charge of that we have to evaluate, and the commission has made no metric for evaluation, that's a problem. And so maybe we need to devise a metric that looks at this.
That's
and
what all
says,
this is.
just because you've done, I think those were just forms asking questions. And are you asking us the question for us to evaluate him? Or
Yes.
am I as a commissioner?
Yes, that's exactly what we're asking. That's
So I
exactly-
can go out and, can I go out and hold a public meeting with my constituents so that they can help me fill out that form of evaluation? Because my one opinion should not matter as much as the public should matter.
You are the public and you're representing the public.
Perfect. So I can do that then. I can get public input into my.
Yeah.
Okay,
But here-
excellent. I did not know that. So I thank you.
Welcome.
As long as that's clear, I'll do that.
I would like to reverse this and ask Scott what kind of performance measures he performs for himself and perhaps for his staff. because these are the measurable methods of analysis of performance.
Scott, before you even think about asking, one thing I want to bring up though is, I don't think what the Office of Elections has accomplished in the last 10 years, you would think would increase the voter turnout. The decrease in voter turnout, I would not put that on the Office of Elections. I would put that on the lack of good competitive races with decent candidates running. It's a troubling thing. I don't care which party. We need some good people out there to run for office and get involved, and that's not happening. So the interest level of the voter is not where it should be.
So we can agree that the number of voter increase or decrease could be a measure of performance. That's a statistical thing that we could apply to Scott's performance. And with mail-in balloting, we increased our thing by 30% or so, but that was because of mail-in balloting.
And we also saved $850,000 a year by going to mail-in ballots. Okay.
And another
There's
measure
all
of
kinds of
performance.
things, Michael, there's all kinds of things you can look at.
That's right. And that's what we're trying to determine.
And they're not all correct or 100% or 50%, but you got to take all of them together. And
all of what? All measures of voters or financial performance or staff turnover? How about staff turnover?
Yeah, you can look at that too. Absolutely.
All these are measures of performance that we could add
sir.
a method of implementation. That's what we're talking about. These measures of performance. So we've identified 3 so far, and that's just us brainstorming.
All right. So, okay.
Scott, what other measures of performance would you give yourself? If Scotty lets you answer.
I think that's a good question. If he's able to respond.
We do, the office does have a mission statement. We provide secure, accessible, convenient election services to all voters statewide. That is something that we do, or we strive to perform, or we strive to carry out when we do our function in the election.
Okay, so on that point, if I could ask you a question. Sure. The mission statement, what is the mission statement? Your mission statement?
To provide secure, accessible, and convenient election services to all voters.
Accessible and convenient. And so you folks felt that going to mail-in balloting was more convenient
and accessible.
And more accessible. The 2 largest neighborhoods in the United States of America are Hawaiian Paradise Park and Ocean View. They are the 2 largest, they're number 1 and number 2 in the United States of America. Both do not have mail delivery. How is that convenient and accessible?
So every voter does receive a ballot in the mail. They also can choose to vote in person. So it's not
correct, but they are 30 minutes outside of Hilo, and you only had a Hilo and a Kona. There was no setup service area in Pahoa, where we know that this is a rural, poor community with lack of transportation, and everybody who owns a mailbox gets a ballot. Do you know what the going rate for a mailbox in Pahoa is, where HPP is located? The going rate is $166 for 6 months. Do you know that you have to pay that in full in order to get mail? Do you know that the waiting list at Pahoa Post Office is 2.5 years long? The waiting list at Mountain View is 1.5 years long. The waiting list in Keau is 2.8 years long. The waiting list in Hilo is 1.3 years long. So it is not convenient. It is not accessible. Ocean View. Ocean View is even worse than Pahoa. And so if that is the mission statement and that is the job, by going to balloting instead of precincts, then I think it's a failure. I would have to rate it that way from the island of Hawaii. If we're going to rate on mission statement, I don't want to rate on mission statement, and I don't want to be a one-person opinion and rate. So a metric is invaluable. And where would we get the information for the metrics? Who's going to give me the count of how many people, how much the county spent, and how much they saved? What the worker turnover is on the island of Hawaii? Where am I going to get this information for the matrix? And so I want to make sure that when we do this evaluation, that it is fair and founded and not based on opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Look, anyone who has additional comments on what kinds of questions or whatever you'd want added here, please send it in the Office of Elections so you folks can solve this, try to solve this and move in the right direction. Okay?
Do you have a copy of the matrix you folks used for 2016? Or the last time you did an evaluation?
I'm sure we do.
Could I get a copy of that, please, to my email?
I'm gonna try to. Can we get, is there a copy of the last one that we can send out, or?
Or is it
Yeah.
an opinion survey again?
Okay, it's right here.
Isn't it
That's
posted
what this is.
online?
Oh, that is the last one you folks used? That's what you used for the last one?
I think so,
Apparently. Yeah.
Well, I saw 3 pages.
something like
So was
that.
it those 3
I
pages?
think so, right? Had a question and a space, right, another, and.
And
space.
this was just for the commissioners to fill out, and that was how the evaluation was done?
Correct.
And did commissioners go outside to their public, the people they represent, so that they could fill that out representing the people? Or did they just do it based on what they witnessed?
Okay, so what you have, there's 3 forms.
I
that
saw
went out
them, yes.
last time. And one went to the chief election officer, one went to the county clerks, and one went to the commission members. So there's 3 separate things.
Correct. So can we get a copy of the last one that was done with the answers, So it shows me what other people were using, what were the county clerks. So I know where I'm coming from, what we're working with.
Okay, she's good. We're gonna check it out. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know if we have that available right now or not. But if we do, you can have it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. That would be very helpful.
Okay. Okay, you done? All right. So
Chair, real quickly.
before we move on to agenda items 7 and 8.
Chair, can I say something real quick before I move on?
Sure.
I put it in the chat, but I just want to make sure it makes it in the minutes because we've been discussing method of evaluation. And I think what we've been trying to identify is what are the measurable data points we could use to unbiasedly evaluate the chief election officer. And so the things that come to my mind are voter turnout. I think that's measurable. Cost analysis of the election. I think that's measurable. Response percentage to the public inquiry. I'm not sure if that's measurable. I was wondering if the Office of Election Secretary could tell us, like, is there a running list of inquiries that come in and, you know, when they get responded to? I'm not sure if that's something that the Office of Election could provide. And then lastly, resolution of complaints, you know, the amount of complaints that come up, and if the Office of Elections is able to answer those and resolve them, especially compliance with HRS. Notably what comes to mind is HRS 16-42, the post-certification, or excuse me, pre-certification post-election audits, like how we're following that. So just my ideas of what belongs on an evaluation, the data points that are measurable for us when it comes to.
Supreme Court was pretty good on that, Tom. Okay, thank you.
Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Papalimo, do you have that report that you are referring to from the Supreme Court, the 438 pages or whatever?
Do I have it? I do not have it.
Do we know where we can get that?
I'm sure somebody knows where you can get it, but I don't know where that is, but I'll make sure we find out.
And can someone send that to me, please?
All 400
That report.
pages? I don't know, but I will check it out.
Is the secretary there? Can she answer whether
No,
she can get
she's
that
here.
to me?
Yeah, she is. If we can get it to you, we will get it to you. Okay. If we
Okay,
can't get
perfect.
it to you, we'll let you know what you can do.
Or a link to it.
Yeah.
Or a link
exactly.
to it would be perfect.
Exactly, which would probably be a lot more efficient. But anyway, there were several, Supreme Court cases this year. They all ended up the same way. So. Yeah. So before moving on to agenda items 7 and 8, is there any public testimony for those two agenda items prior to going into executive sessions?
Oh, let me see my agenda.
Chair, I don't see any raised hands.
Okay. So call for motion to enter executive session.
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? All right. We've now moved into executive session.
Soon enough.
Approval of the minutes of the executive session of the meeting of April 17th. Only I don't have those in front of me.
All right, I will take another roll call to ensure that all the commissioners are back in main session. Chair Anderson,
Here.
Commissioner Andrian,
Present.
Commissioner Aquino,
Present.
Commissioner Curtis,
Here.
Commissioner Kikuchi, Commissioner Kikuchi. Oh. Commissioner Kikuchi, are you back in? Sorry, can't hear you. Okay. Commissioner Kawada. Okay. Commissioner McAdam,
Present.
Commissioner Papalimu,
Present with cigarette.
Yeah, I saw that.
Commissioner Takenaka.
Here,
Commissioner Yakora. All commissioners are back. Chair, all commissioners are back.
Okay.
You're muted, Scotty. Scotty, you're muted.
Yeah, okay,
There you go.
I'm back. Okay, I just want to thank everyone for the last 8 years. They haven't all been smooth and paved, but they've all been interesting. And I won't forget any of them. And I wish all of you a great next, you've got a very competent person coming in. Sometimes he even says nice things about me, but not often. But that's okay. Yeah, I can handle. And this has been quite an experience, and I wish all of you nothing but the best. Thank you and aloha.
Aloha, enjoy your time off.
Thank you, Scotty.
So move to adjourn.
Scotty's got to make his big announcement.
before we adjourn, does anybody have an idea when our next meeting will be? Around what time of year?
Maybe be in January,
Yeah, probably.
because we're running real fast to the next election.
Yeah.
If there's any issues, we should work them out.
In person?
I would prefer, but expedience in person would be great, but personally, up to you guys.
So can we, would you folks mind if we can schedule something, like with sometime this month, so that we can mark it off on our calendars already? I think the more time we give ourselves, you know, we can figure.
And Jamie could poll us and we could figure it out in the next week or so.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
Chair Anderson, since it's going on the website today, do you want to make that announcement? You said you were gonna. You're on mute.
Yeah, we're just having that discussion right now is how I do it.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to make the announcement.
You're off. You're
Not why. Oh, no, it's not Joe Smith.
So what you have to do
Michael.
is pursuant to Act 019.
Oh, God. I have to write this down. Pursuant to Act 019. I'm getting this piecemeal. Okay, now I can make it official because I have codes and stuff. So, hang on here. Too much writing. in con- in- After returning to public session, report summary of EC's discussion of final actions taken according to Act 019 SLH 2023. Our commission has elected Michael Curtis of Kauai as the next chair of the Elections Commission. Term to begin on December 7th.
I want to thank everybody.
Congratulations, Michael.
Thank
He'll
you.
be fine.
Bill.
Although I did find that occasionally some single malt scotch helped. So I'd like to call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn.
That is second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Congratulations.
Thank you.